Now, there is no doubt about it that Snow White is by far the worst production by the Walt Disney Company for multiple factors. We know that a lot of it had to do with Rachel Zegler. We know at the same exact time, putting DEI all aside, putting Rachel Zegler all aside, this was just a terrible movie across the board when it came to the writing, the directing, the producing, even the cinematography. The CGI was just god-awful. We know that there's a lot of problems going into this movie, just looking at it as a movie in and of itself. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, one major aspect about why there's a lot of growing issues between Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler is that we know that they have a lot of personal problems with each other. We know that there's a lot of politics driven in between there, as well as other personal issues that really rised when it came to creative differences behind the scenes, and also in the public eye they had a lot of problems. But this is where it begins to get interesting, is that we know that now Gal Gadot is finally, slowly but surely, beginning to actually come through and really reveal all the issues between herself and Rachel Zegler and everything else that happened behind the scenes and in between. Those over at Disney, and of course, those that were actually handling this movie, the creatives like Mark Webb, Greta Gerwig, Erin, etc., etc. Now, this is where it gets interesting, is that one thing about Gal is that we know that for the most part, she's been very silent, she's been very professional, handling this in the best way possible, but now that the movie is beginning to actually rapidly, get its way out of theaters, she's beginning to actually really show her true self about how she feels about this movie, how she feels about the overall situation. So let's get into this. Now, specifically, of course, with the Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler drama now beginning to go public, especially after Snow White is being rushed out of theaters by multiple movie theater chains, after the box office was frozen at $190 million worldwide, one major development going on now involves Gal Gadot setting the record straight in the midst of the ongoing Snow White drama. Gal delivered the following. The way I see it is, if you want to have a successful project, then you need to have a very competent team, along with competent and well-behaved co-stars that are by your side all the time and supporting you. Unfortunately, we did not really have that with this production, and the greatest mistake any actor or actress can make when you are promoting a film is when you begin to get very political. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to see that. When you are an actress, that's your job. We are not politicians. We are here to act. And the instant that you begin to express your politics, you begin to alienate customers. That's something that I was never about. But unfortunately, it's something that others part of this production were all about, and it was something that we really had to deal with on set as well. It really sets you back. It really creates widespread issues when you are trying to get your scenes done on time or trying to promote the very film that you worked on. There is no room in this world for actresses getting involved in politics unless you want to either A, ruin your reputation, or B, want to sabotage your own work. Those that I worked closest with in this project, in particular, one that I can think of, was not so professional to the customers that we were trying to reach, and neither when we were doing our scenes on set. The instant that you get political, you not only divide your customers and how they perceive you, but also you divide the cast and the crew. And believe me, it was a tough process to deal with, that overall division, both when we were filming and when we were actually promoting. I think we seriously could have done better, and I think that I have learned from this experience. I have learned from my mistakes on who I plan to work with from this point on in the future. It sort of evolved me as an actress on who I should or should not work with. Now, guys, let me just stop here about what Gal is really saying. Notice how she's carefully not naming Rachel Zegler by name. She's not saying Rachel or Rachel Zegler this or Rachel Zegler that, but we all know who she's talking about, right? This is why Gal Gadot is a class act when it comes to promoting movies. I'm not saying that she's the best actress in the world. She does have some hits and misses out there, but she does handle PR very carefully and very well, except now she's beginning to actually, lose her temper a little bit. She's beginning to actually, crack through the entire process and showing exactly all the issues that Rachel Zegler created and really putting her in the hot seat. And I think a lot of this, by the way, has to do with the fact that basically Gal has nothing to lose at this point when it comes to the Snow White promotion in isolation, right? This movie is done for. This movie's not going to do well on Disney Plus either. Again, when you look at the box office results, let's look at the key specifics here. $85 million domestic. That is abysmal. And when you factor in international, you know, everything added up together, you're looking at 194 million worldwide. So 85 domestic, 109 million international, and 194 worldwide. That is really not good, based on how much money they poured into this thing across the board when it came to the marketing campaign, the, of course, traveling expenses for Rachel Zegler, all the different, pieces that they filmed to promote this actual movie, and the amount of the amount of funds that went into this thing, $300 million for this movie that really did not need to be that. If anything, this movie could have, if they really wanted to, they could have spent $150 million on this thing for what it was, and then maybe spent, a couple, extra on marketing expenses, maybe an extra 80 to $100 million at that, if they really wanted to go that far. But moving on here, she goes on to elaborate further. It sort of evolved me as an actress on who I should or should not work with, because sometimes certain people can drag you down with their own issues. I just didn't want to get involved in that as much. I can only hope that studios like Disney, for example, learn from this experience. Our projections on how successful this film was going to be, unfortunately, were not accurate and not met, and we need to do better in this industry if we want to attract customers and moviegoers. The Snow White character should never be criticized by the actual cast when you are promoting a character so embedded in pop culture. It's, of course, the one like 1937 that we all cherish. It really was a very difficult production for me, if not the most difficult production in my entire career. We dealt with numerous setbacks due to some incompetence from our co-stars, and we just really had to learn to deal with the overall situation every single day. So again, what she's alluding to there is the fact that Rachel Zegler was very difficult to work with. She created a lot of setbacks to the point where they had to do 3 rounds of reshoots. Technically 2, but they had one minor third round of reshoots there at last minute in 2023, in the beginning of 2024. But really the 2 main ones, the 2 rounds of reshoots, completely revamped the second and third acts of the movie. And so here you have Gal Gadot really calling out Rachel Zegler, though not by name. We all know exactly who she's alluding to and exactly who she's referencing. She's just acting like a class act here. She's trying to stay very professional. She's trying to actually, stay on the fence here, right? And we all know that Rachel Zegler is not going to be happy. She's not going to be happy about any of this. I don't know if you guys saw the recent paparazzi photos of Rachel Zegler, but she doesn't really seem to be taking the criticism well. She also does not seem to be taking the backlash very well, and how poorly this movie did at the box office, and how now you have a lot of studios out there dumping Rachel Zegler. Previous contracts that were in discussion between herself and other studios are now being called off, almost effective immediately, and that's also creating a deep impact on her career, negatively speaking. So overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.